Hi, I'm Yaffa, and this is Transcend with Yaffa, presented by Efrat, where every woman who wants to have her baby can. If you're here, thank you. Just for pressing play, you've already joined me in something sacred. And now, I want to tell you the truth, because that's how we're doing things here. This podcast almost didn't happen. Not because I was afraid it would fail, but because I was afraid it would succeed. I know, that might sound backward, but it's real. And I want to talk about it because I think we all dance with fear, but we don't always call it by its name. We talk a lot about the fear of failure. That's the classic one. What if I try something and it flops? What if I'm not good enough? But the fear that stopped me from starting this podcast wasn't that. It was, what if I am good enough? And then I have to keep going. What if the first episode does amazing? And then I'm expected to top it every single week? What if I set the bar so high, I burn out just trying to reach it again? That's fear of success. And it's sneaky. It wears a pretty dress and tells you it's just not the right time. But really, it's just fear in a new outfit. And then there's the commitment fear. That one's not as loud, but oh, is she persistent. It whispers, once you start, you're stuck. And let's be honest, many of us already feel stuck in so many areas of life. So adding one more thing, no matter how meaningful, can feel terrifying. So I want to talk about the dance of dysfunction. I'm going to start by telling you a story. At one point in my life, we had a toilet that didn't flush unless you lifted the lid and pulled a string. And every time someone came over, I'd be like, oh, no worries. You just have to open the tank and pull the string. It's totally normal. I didn't fix it. I just lived like that. I was dancing around my dysfunction. Did you ever experience a cabinet where you pull the cabinet open and the pots start falling out, and then you take out what you need and you push the pots back in and you close the cabinet? I've been to people's homes where their chairs were dirty, like filthy, and they're just like, here, have a seat. And I was like, wait, don't you see your chairs are filthy? And then I realized we all do it. That's the dance of dysfunction. We get used to things being a little broken, a little dirty, a little painful, a little inconvenient. And instead of changing them, we adapt. Even if it means twisting our necks just to change lanes. Okay, here's what happened. A while ago, I was in a car accident, which left me with terrible whiplash. I literally moved like in the military. I couldn't turn my neck at all. Changing lanes while driving was a leap of faith. And I knew I should go to the chiropractor and take care of it. But ain't nobody got time for that. I kept pushing it off, and I learned to live like a statue. I was dancing around my dysfunction until I finally got readjusted and realigned a few years later. Now I can move. Because we adapt, we compensate, we cope. But coping is not the same thing as living. What does living mean? When we stop dancing with dysfunction and start dancing with dignity. But how do we do that? What really holds us back from change, from growth, from the life we know we want? It's fear. And fear shows up in a few different costumes. Today we're talking about these three. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of success. Fear of failure says, what if I'm not good enough? So I just won't try. Fear of the unknown says, what if I leave this hard but familiar job or relationship and I end up in something worse? And fear of success says, what if I shine and then I can't handle the weight of staying in the light? All of them keep us stuck, not because we can't move forward, but because we start dancing around our dysfunction, like in Mitzrayim. Yes, in Egypt. You know that only 20% of the Jews left Egypt? 80% stayed, even though they were literally enslaved, oppressed, abused. Why? Because the unknown, even freedom, was scary. They didn't know what it would be like on the other side of the sea. So they stayed in a prison with a routine. Familiar pain felt safer than unfamiliar freedom. Now let's break this down even more. I teach that there are three kinds of people in this dance of dysfunction. We've got the blamers, the shamers, and the claimers. Let's talk about the blamers. These are the people who always find a reason outside themselves I would have succeeded, but my teacher didn't believe in me. I would have done it, but my husband's not supportive. I would have started, but I'm too busy. I'm too tired. I'm too not enough. Now, there's one word that's the biggest dream killer, and that is the word but. Because we spend decades of our lives developing a relationship with the word but. I would do that, but. I would go there, but. I would create that, but. I would become that, but. And then the problem is that we spend the rest of our lives developing a relationship with but's cousins. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. They just show up at every regret party. Blaming feels good in the moment, but it steals your power from you. Now let's move on to the shamers. These are the people who have stopped blaming others and started blaming themselves. They internalize every harsh word ever said to them, every label, every dismissal, every "you're not good enough." I lived in that category for a while. You see, I was kicked out of 4 schools. 4. The first school was when I was in 8th grade. I had been asked to not come back to that school for high school. And one day I was walking down the hall and one of the principals came walking towards me. And she looked at me and she said something to me. I was 13 years old. And she said to me, "I heard you're not coming back to school next year." And I said, "That's right." And I thought she was going to tell me, "Well, I wish you a lot of hatzlacha. I hope you find the school that is the right fit for you and you grow and you shine." And that's what I thought she was going to say to me. But she didn't. She looked at me and she said, "We'll be happy to see you go." I was 13 years old. That hit me hard. But that stuck. I started believing I was broken, unfixable, unworthy. I wasn't a blamer. I was a shamer. And that voice followed me around for a while until one day at 16 years old, a friend of mine looked me in the eye and said, "You don't need to be validated by anyone. You just need to believe in yourself. You are so beautiful and so powerful and so talented. You have to believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and love the person that you are inside." She made one phone call that got me into a school that finally saw me for who I was. And that moment changed the trajectory of my life because I stopped being a shamer and I started being a claimer. Let's talk about the claimer. This is who I try to be today, every day. The claimer doesn't blame others. The claimer doesn't drown in self-shame. The claimer says, "I may not be responsible for what happened to me, but I am responsible for what happens next. I don't want to be a victim of life. I want to be a force in life." That's what transcendence means. Not that I always rise above, floaty and perfect, but that I rise anyway, even with fear, even with dysfunction, even with dirty laundry, which, by the way, is currently behind a locked door in my house, out of sight, out of mind. I mean, we know behind every great woman is a pile of dirty laundry. Let's be real. But I want to end with a final thought from my father. I want to leave you with something personal. Now, this is not something that my father taught me with his words, but it's something that he taught me with how he lived his life. My father was sick for many, many years. He had multiple sclerosis, and it was chronic progressive, chronic degenerative. And he became completely paralyzed during the last few years of his life. He lost the ability to use any of his 5 senses. He had no physical pleasures left in this world, and he was completely bedridden. And we were so thankful that the only thing that still worked was his smile. That worked all the way until the end. And he had the most radiant smile that lit up his face and lit up the room around him. And he never stopped smiling. He also never stopped davening. And he never stopped inspiring. Now, how did he daven? He was lying in bed, completely paralyzed. But one of my brothers or a home health aide would go over to him and put his tefillin on every morning, and he would listen to a recording that my brother had made for him of the whole tefillah. And he would just put on his headphones and lie there for hours and listen to my brother's tefillah. And that's how he davened. And he wore his tefillin and he smiled. And every person who came to visit him to give him chizuk said that they left feeling much more inspired by him than he was by them. Now, when he was losing his ability to speak, he was still able to move his lips and whisper a little bit. And every time he would move his mouth, whoever was around would run over to put their ear to his mouth to hear what he was trying to say. And he always said one of two things. He either said, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, we have to serve Hashem with joy. Or he would say, mitzvah gedola lihiyot b'simcha tamid. It is a mitzvah to always be happy, no matter what. And his life taught me this truth. There is a pasuk in Shemos where Hashem was speaking to Moshe, and he said to him, Hamakom asher ata omed alav, admas kodesh hu. This place on which you're standing right now, this is your holy place. So he told Moshe, take off your shoes, show respect for this place, because this is your holy place. And this is how my father lived his life. He didn't say, oh, I'm going to smile when I have something to smile about, when I feel better. I'm going to daven when I can stand up and I can put my tefillin on and I can move my mouth and I can say the words and I'll daven to Hashem. When I get better, I'll daven. When I get better, I'll inspire people. When I get better, I will be a better friend, a better father, a better husband, a better person. He didn't say that. He did it in the place that he was. He became his best self because he never got better. There was no when I get better. How many times do we say, I will be a better friend when I'm in a better emotional place. I will give more tzedakah when I'm doing better financially. I will be more patient when my day is going a little better. Right now. This is your holy place. Not when you're better. Not when you have figured it all out. Right now. That's your holy place. The place on which you are standing right now, wherever you are literally, wherever you are in your physical health, wherever you are emotionally, wherever you are mentally, psychologically, socially, wherever you are right now. This is your holy place, and Hashem doesn't want you to serve Him or do the next best thing when you're feeling better, when you have it together, when you have it figured out. This is your holy place, and it's from this place that Hashem wants you to serve Him. This podcast is me standing in my holy place, starting imperfectly, choosing transcendence over perfection, choosing courage over fear, choosing to dance with dignity instead of dancing with dysfunction. So I ask you, my dear listeners, what dysfunction have you been dancing around? Are you a blamer, a shamer, or a claimer today? What would happen if you let go of the fear and just started anyway? My friend, I see you. You're not alone, and you are more ready than you think. This podcast, it's not about being more, it's about being you, softly, steadily, soulfully. And now, let's transcend together.